You're watching my favorite YouTube channel, Chillmonger, chilling with Rosales. He's got a YouTube channel, Rosales Comics. You should all be subscribing to Rosales Comics. Every Sunday we do that wrap up that I join on a very frequent basis, more than I thought I would. When you first invited me, I was like, yeah, sure, if I'm not doing anything, sure. But now I'm there all the time. We have had the conversation about independent comics on multiple occasions. I've had it here on this channel multiple occasions, but never has an independent creator reached out to me and said, yo, here's my comic. Promote the comic. Join me in this independent venture. And that's why we're here. Introduce us to what we're looking at here.
What I did was I put out a 4-issue limited series on Global Comics called My Frankenstein that detailed my interpretation of the Frankenstein mythos while tying it into superhero characters and the background for superhero characters. Initially, the character of Frankenstein, birthed out of body parts of an angel, was done by me and a fellow creator who has sadly passed away. And we pitched an idea to HBO that was rejected. The main character is now a secondary character in this story. Tobiel was the original main character, and the Frankenstein monster was a secondary character. But I took that secondary story idea that angels that were fallen can't die, and that when they fell and they mated with women, God flooded the earth and killed all of their children and took away their ability to reproduce, which is why we haven't seen the giants of old, the Nephilim, and all these other things that are talked about in religious mythos. So this character of a fallen angel, Yehudia, is corrupted by his sin physically because he's an angel. And that's what makes him a fallen angel. And what he does is he finds a doctor in the 19th century, 18th century, whatever it is, who would be able to sew parts of human beings onto his body to replace parts that are rotting. And then has this great idea of replacing his non-existent anatomy with the male anatomy so that he can mate with women, because as his sin is that of the flesh, and God will tempt you over and over and over again, what God has done is taken his wife, his initial wife, during that Nephilim period, and reincarnate her over and over again. And that was his punishment, not hers, but his.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with her at all, but she was the one who played the role. If you look in the Old Testament stories, you have stories of like Moses and his brother Ramses, his adopted brother, and Moses comes to him and says, "Hey, bad things are going to happen if you don't let my people go." And he says, "Okay, I'll let your people go." Right behind that, God says that the book says God hardens his heart and he changes his mind. So he was a pawn in the Moses story, unwilling pawn. So I take that to the utmost extreme and have this woman reincarnated over and over again. And he has to try to explain to her their situation and how they're in love and how their bond is unbreakable. And then she dies again and he still can't.
When she reincarnated as a lesbian, I was like, okay, Rosales, okay.
Well, the story lended itself to that because this was the end of that cycle of torture as he was coming to his point where he's going to be redeemed himself as an angel. At least that's what he thought. And so, you know, you get taught a lesson over and over and over again. At least in the Bible, that's what it says. That if somebody doesn't learn a lesson, the Israelites don't learn a lesson, their land gets taken away again, and they're subjugated by other people.
That is something that is subject matter, which at this point in time, I want nothing to do with. Or that could really hijack the entire stream if we went there.
Yeah, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
in the Bible stories, they fail and God teaches them a lesson, and then they're okay. And then they fail again and fail again and fail again. So that being the case,
Free Palestine.
absolutely. Uh, that being said, he is going through his learning phase. What he does is that he takes blood from himself and gives it to human beings, and that enables them to have powers. And some of his initial children, the heroes of old, did not die in the floods, and they reproduced and passed that angel blood through their own bloodstream to human beings. And over time, these powers start to awaken in them, and they use these angelic powers to become superheroes and villains, and that's what births this superhero universe that we'll wind up seeing. That's the story in My Frankenstein. That's how they wind up in this story, and that's their background as to who they are when this final confrontation and this final falling happens.
Speaking of this superhero universe, might this be the one that you're speaking of?
Yes, it is. In 2024, I will be releasing a bi monthly series called Stunning Adventures, which will be an anthology series with small stories featuring the current roster of superheroes. We won't get into any religious iconography. We won't get back to the Frankenstein story because the
Thank
Frankenstein
God for the religious stuff,
dies.
not the Frankenstein stuff, the religious stuff. When I saw the Pope freaking putting a rear naked, like I'm watching this and I'm going like, yo, it already started off very kind of not my territory, and then he
Yes.
went there, and I'm like, woof.
Yeah, it's kind of like the jumping off point is ending that and moving on to what their kids are doing. The reincarnated mother is still around because she wasn't allowed to die because she's got a lesson to learn. I don't know what that is yet, but we'll get there. It'll present itself just like initially you were talking about the lesbian thing. That in my first draft of that, it was a ruse. She was lying.
Oh,
Um,
no, that's I guess why they talked about that, right?
Yeah, but it came to mind that why would she be lying about something like that in this day and age? Currently, you wouldn't lie about that. It's your truth. It is who you are, and that is who she is. So I had to run with that, and you know, I might be more conservative than some other people, but if that's where the story wants to go, as a writer, I have to go where the characters are most honest. And
Is that why the
she,
cop was calling a woman a Karen? Like,
yeah, Yeah, that's why the cop was calling the woman a Karen, easy Karen. He's trying to back out of the situation and doesn't want to get caught up in that.
where was it? By the way, that cop car was drawing like exquisitely well. The way that says police on the side of the page, that's amazing.
Well, I don't do too well with cars, so I had some help with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh damn! You should have took that compliment, bro.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I worked very hard on it.
Are you sure nothing is going on here? You don't think I'm whoring out here, do you? I didn't say. And then he goes here. Okay, calm down, Karen. Why is the cop black? Why did you go with that?
The cop is black?
He looks black. Oh, he's not. It's just darker on the eye. Ah. Oh, so why isn't the cop black, huh, Rosales? You know what? There's not much representation here. You got green. You got this dead guy here.
Well, I don't want to represent melanated people in a negative light. So anytime there's somebody speaking negatively, I'm not going to
Good answer.
interject that. I don't want to cast light on stereotypes that are negative. Let them fade off into the darkness.
I had a complaint on page 7 about the lettering. I got notes here. I don't just remember that. Were you the one lettering, or like how did that happen?
Oh, yeah, that looks like a mistake. Hold on.
Is
Let
that in the
me,
final copy?
I'm going to find out here. Oh my God, it did make it in.
Oh,
Yes, it did. I found some of that stuff. Yes, I did do the lettering. And sometimes when you use PDFs to the printer, things will readjust themselves. And I didn't catch that on the print check. So, um, but that happens. That kind of thing happens in all comic books of all sizes and of all companies. I don't know if you remember or not, but there's a guy who got roasted online for putting jewelry it was in the window. It was backwards. It was supposed to be jewelry, but artists aren't known for spelling. So when he was drawing it backwards and part of it was covered up, he wound up leaving out a letter, an L. And the owner was obviously Jewish in this. I don't say obvious, but
it was the
it was
Immortal
Jewish.
Hulk, and the artist was Joe Bennett.
Yeah. So he got roasted for that. But you have to remember that with DC Comics, you have pencilers, you have inkers, you have letterers, you have editors, and you have publishers, and you have printers all going through the exact same thing. And still, a tiny mistake can go through. So, not making an excuse to myself because I didn't catch that. I'm just one person. But it happens, and it happens often
That's what I'm here for,
in
man. I'm
fiction.
here to call out your mistakes, and no, I don't. I'm here just for the sake of being fair, just so no one can say, "Oh, that's just he's just helping out his boy, huh? Him and Rosales, they're together." Nah, I'm trying to be legit here with my. Well, I got notes. I got
So I
notes.
will tell you this: the first 50 are going to have that mistake. After the 50th print, that will not be in there, and all of the first 50 are numbered and signed. There it is, right there. Look at that.
Number 4 out of 50.
4 out of 50 still available with the mistake on page 17, ready to go. So there's
We
that.
we own it. We own our mistakes.
Absolutely.
Now let's go to page 23 of this file, and when he makes that face on the left, that's impressive. I can see this, and I'm like, okay, I can picture, yeah, the faulty wiring in the baby monitor, how there's going to be a fire, the child will not wake again. This was such good writing, matching with the panel layout over here, dividing on the left side with all black and see his face, and then on the right side we see the cradle and everything. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
It was important for me to make sure that everybody understood that death is everywhere all at once, almost bringing to a point that each of the angels that did survive are carrying one aspect of their father, if you will. So his is that he's everywhere and he sees everything, and because of that, he knows everything. And he's also got what's written in the book. So there are no surprises for death. And he amuses himself by telling people stuff that they can't avoid, or trying to disrupt what's happening by telling them what they can't avoid, seeing if they can. And if, it's one of those old arguments about predestination and free will and whatnot. And he's just amusing himself on the job. But this is actually a true story right here about the 60-year-old woman.
This story had to be true, where she's cooking her up her little on her for her sleeping husband, and what he did what to the kids when she was younger.
Yeah, I didn't really want to go into what he did to the kids specifically, but they were abused as children. And at one point, after going through several years of therapy, this is the true story. They came back to their mother, and as part of the catharsis and healing of yourself, you have to confront those around you. And they confronted her for letting it happen, and not confronting him for doing it, but for her. It was a boy and a girl. And she was completely unaware of what had gone on, but it hit her with a moment of clarity once they told her what was going on, why they lived so far away, why they were so alone, why they were so dysfunctional growing up. And she realized that he was the demon seed that did that. And she cooked up six bags of sugar in a gallon of water until it was this napalm, and she poured it on him while he was laying in bed. She eventually called the police, but she didn't do it until after she was sure he was not going to survive. And she took her punishment.
And then you use that to inform your story or to add to your story these real life events.
Yes.
Cool. By the end of this first comic or the second issue, we have a big surprise. Where am I? Oh, I guess it's not much of a surprise, but like we said, it's the lesbian couple where at first she says like, "This is it. Like I'm a lesbian. I'm not interested. Leave me alone. Let it be." Like he's like, "No, but I love you. I love you." Where was this inspired by? Was this from real life? Have you ever felt like you were in a thing with a girl and she was like, "I don't love you," but even though she cared about you, hey, get away, the cops are coming. Like she didn't hate. Remember Hancock?
Yeah.
Remember that superhero Hancock? It's like that. It's like throughout the years, there's this love relationship between Will Smith's character and Charlie Theron.
There was a situation in my freshman year in high school. Uh,
Oh, I knew it was
so,
coming from somewhere.
yeah, you got to write from. I don't advocate self inserts into comic books, but I do advocate writing from a place of reality. So if there are situations in your life that you can call from, even like an actor will use situations in their life to inform the way that they portray certain characters or situations to lend itself to gravitas. And if
Hmm.
you write from yourself, experience or somebody else's personal experience, then it will ring true. The tighter it is, the more true it rings to the bigger audience, because the more we are different, the more we are the same. It rung more true than it did false, and so it had to be that way in the story. And I had to put a character in there that was going to get sacrificed to continue to dissuade her from being and falling into that cycle of falling in love with him again.
In this comic book, we learn the dangers of smoking. You have a lit cigarette, and there's some. Let's read the words. The lighter ignited the gas from the broken pipe. The building collapsed and burned everything left in the building. So this is a shock. This is a big one, and we end with mystery, right? To be continued. Dot dot dot. Like and then we get to the second issue. Why did you do that big shock? Did you need something to end on, or was it planned out? When did you decide I'm just gonna blow everything up?
Yeah, I needed. I paced out the story so that
Okay.
each issue, except for the fourth, ended on a cliffhanger. And so I did plot out the entire thing beforehand, and then I started to work out the script, and I did it the Marvel way. So I plotted it out, started the pencils, and did the pictures, and then filled in the blanks later on. And I wound up actually adding extra pages in as I went along because that's not the best way. It's just the Marvel way,
Yeah. Right.
and it creates opportunities to expand on the story because you have to explain things that you didn't cover the first time around. So, uh, it works for Marvel. It really does, and it does work because I got these four stories out.
Not everyone at Marvel uses it. It's like a rare thing now. So, big cliffhanger. Here comes the next issue. Can you explain to me what's happening here? This is them in their
Yes,
ghostly forms.
yes, they have both passed through the veil and gone to the judgment. And surprisingly, to some conservatives, the lesbian
Uh,
smoker winds up going to heaven.
Atheists.
Okay. She winds up going to heaven, and it's surprising for her. And it's surprise. She says it's going to be surprising for her priest, who, or her pastor,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
had a,
boy, will my priest be surprised. What the hell does that mean? Was that like a dirty thing? What did that mean? She's not
yeah,
religious?
that's part of her backstory is that the reason she is the way she is because she was influenced
Oh,
negatively as a child.
and she was turned off.
Yes, and the thing is that a lot of people don't know it. Just like uh, you know, you don't get you don't need God's permission for him to use you in a specific way. And if you follow what the Lord is trying to do for you, yeah, we don't know who's going to heaven. We don't know who's going to hell, if there is one, if you feel so inclined. But the thing is, you have to obey the word of God to do that. Now we know in the Bible, in the Old Testament, that He gives different people different duties. And even in the New Testament, Jesus said, "If I wanted him to walk the earth forever, uh, um, then who's to deny me that, or who's to say I couldn't?" So we don't know what judgment is on that, and I just wanted to reinforce the fact that it's possible for anybody. So that's what that was about. And of course, she's being turned back at the exact same time. The main character of this story winds up being is being turned back to finish what uh, what had started, ages ago.
The lines say here that Thor was reincarnated, love of his life, and did not know the angel in this incarnation. Thor only knew the monster. So you kind of do something here. We get to the scientists. You created like your own rules where it's your own lore. You can make it up. There's these regular people who are scientists, and they have the ability to create these supernatural type of fake body type thing. Except they had conditions about a soul and conditions about a heart. Anyways, I'm just trying to say that these things are fine because you're inventing the rule set. It's if you were to ever get sloppy and have contradictions, then we could point at this page and we could say, no, 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 it said over here, right on issue number 2, yada, 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 and you're effing up, right?
Well, it's the heart of an angel that has been placed inside of the woman. She is now the quote unquote Frankenstein monster.
Mm,
Okay. We think she's going to be the bride, but she's not. She actually is the Frankenstein styled monster in this. And that's where it twists out. The monster is the Frankenstein because he orders the creation, he powers the people behind it. It's his money, and eventually he gives up his own heart to her. And this is where we tie back to the initial idea that my friend Dave and I had, is that if an angel takes ownership of something, it becomes wholly theirs. Okay, so if he takes a body part from somebody, I now accept it. It is now mine, and I can use it the way I want to. Tobiel got a sword that was given to him by a sword master. It is now a part of who he is. The Flying Dutchman accepted a ship,
hmm
a fallen angel, and now that ship is a part of him. And anybody who joins the crew now is permanently a part of the ship. And so it makes sense that these are things that can be given and taken away. He's given all of these other people blood so they can have immortality and create wealth for their families. And so when he gives his heart, as he has emotionally given his heart to her, he physically gives it to her. It's now hers. And that is what reanimates her entire body and gives it life. And her soul is not as corrupted as his soul is. So her body does not die because his is a corruption from his soul on the inside, which is why nothing ever lasted on him, which is why he would always become green and moldy and have to switch out parts.
mm.
But there are other parts of his angelic body out there in the world that can still help some people if they know what's going on. So,
This character looks very interesting, and I bet he sounds interesting. Since I have you, I'd like for you to word what he's saying over there on the page.
easy, child. You've come through a traumatic event. Most mortals would not survive. You would be among the dead if it were not for divine intervention.
I got what I wanted. That's all. I was like, that was part of my notes. When I was going through this, I'm like, we're gonna ask Rosales to speak that because he looks like he's just a little bit of Count Dooku vibes, a little bit of Frankensteiny weird shenan like Hey
Yeah,
Arnold distorted face type. it's
I don't
it's
know
all
if
over.
I don't know if I covered it in the not in the story or not, but this is the galvanist from way back. He's the initial doctor
Hmm.
that carved together the parts of the body that got them both punished. Um the the angel Yehudia was drawn and quartered as a monster, and he was imprisoned in for in an insane asylum for a lot of years. So and that's backstory stuff. But Death shows up for the first time in this situation to her and lets her know that he's not here for her, but he's here for the good doctor. So
And she's not here to kill children, as she says.
yeah, she says that later on after she kills children.
What do you think? Like this character that you invented with the swirly boobies, they are
Yes.
consistently swirly everywhere, and I like that. That's credit to the consistency of like the swirl matches. It's never counterclockwise, then it's a clockwise. It's the same thing.
Well, this is a being made entirely of blood, and
Ugh.
so the blood is moving all over in that
Oh, it's
shape.
moving. Okay, I didn't get
Yeah.
that movement vibes. Okay.
Well, I guess I should have swirled him the other way.
Well, that's the thing though. It's like a static invention, and plus, since there's nothing like this that exists, I couldn't put my brain to it.
Yeah. I needed to illustrate the fact that she was, in fact, heroic on her own
Uh-huh.
and that she was trying to save the girls who were trying to and actually did commit a Slender Man style um, crime. They killed their friend to bring this being into existence.
God, man, the stuff that you're dipping your toes in is so not my style, like this little level of storytelling of this horror and this graphicness. Ugh.
And
Uh,
it
The images
comes
look
like
so cute.
this.
What'd you say?
I said they come like this too. We don't linger on it. We just, just pop in that this world is twisted and horrible, and bad things can happen at a moment's
Yeah.
notice anywhere.
I was waiting for the vampires.
I had thought about continuing, doing vampires and werewolves and
Yeah.
lake monsters and
Mummies.
things like that. But I don't have anything set up. I've got other things set up. I've got the superhero stuff to go through. I may come back to that later on if I can get some help from Canada. Wink, wink.
The ending where they turn to dust like it's Avengers Endgame. I know I want to talk about that.
The idea behind the ending of the people that worked with Yehudia in his cabal of evil scientists is that they were powered by his blood, the angel blood. And the angel, as you can see on the other side, has left his carnal form and sees what his purpose was initially and accepts his failures and leaves that behind. In doing so, that body is dead and gone. The blood is now dead and gone as well. And because that blood is not there, they are now dead and gone because they shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Hmm.
And so they turn to ash right away.
Makes sense. And she says, "I will create my own destiny." You think that line was good? You think that was one of your best? I will
Uh,
decide my own destiny. I think you could have done way better than that. It looks good though. I'm not saying that's not a bad splash page. Like it looks amazing, right? With the
no,
swipe.
no, it's not a bad page. It looks stunning enough, and maybe that was the initial line that was supposed to inform the other line. Maybe that's the first draft line, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like where in Star Trek they would have tech talk, and then you're supposed to come back in and punch it up, and they do that. I'll admit I gave up on that line. I went over that line a bunch of times and trying to figure out the best way to say that she decides her own destiny. Um, and then I forgot about it and went on to editing the graphic novel, and I never got back to it.
See, I would have made her line be like the word never. So like the word priors would have been from him saying some shit like I'll make your destiny, and she'll say never, and that's just me thinking with like 1 second. But I would never have had so many lines during an action motion. Like they don't have that much time for that dialogue during one swipe. If someone's punching someone, take that is what they'll say. They won't say this is for the family that you have dishonored, and now you deserve this punch. Like that.
Well, that happens all the time in comic books.
It
They're
does.
mid punch and they have 17 word bubbles, and they're going back and forth. It is a trope that I fell into because it's very very convenient. You've got your visual things and you've got your audio things, and I what I wanted to do was in the comic book with her through line thought that that was her intention the entire time. This is where she was supposed to come to, that she has to decide her own destiny and figure out what's coming up next. And it gives Death something to look forward to because nothing she is doing from this point on is written in the book of life.
What's coming up next and something to look forward to is the new Stunning Adventures coming in 2024. You are working on it now. You've put thought into it. It will resume within that universe that we were just introduced to while we were watching this Chillmonger YouTube video. It is Rosales. Are you a fan of his storytelling? Does anything that we just said right now like win you over? You got a couple of bucks. He's here to sell his comic book, man. Last final pitch before we head out. Let us know what people should be spending some money on.
Well, we've got a couple of different versions of the comic book, and what I mean by that is signed and unsigned. So if you go to rosalescomics.com, you can take your pick on which one there are. You also have available some free things on globalcomics.com that we are offering up still. The Red Avenger is what I'm calling it because the Avenger's taken. So it's a
It is.
reprint of a classic comic book that's in public domain that I am cleaning up the art and upscaling it and making it more presentable for today. So I'm saving history for today's youth.
Subscribe to Chillmonger. Subscribe to Rosales Comics. We're out. And now I got to move my hand all the way to the end record thing and trim that 37-minute video into